Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Light Breakdown for Punishment. Hooray! We finally got here. It's been quite some time. Um, just doing other things. So let's get down to the basics. So everyone usually wants to hear what was it shot on, who did what. So this is what we did. So we shot it on my C100 with an Atomos Ninja Blade. Atomos, come on. I'm not right, Ninja Blade. That's gonna be too much. So we shot it on an ISO of 850 or 1200, depending on what kind of lighting we had and this time in the setup. I did shoot this a year ago. Obviously, I've grown since then. So please bear with me if I start making fun of myself. There's a possibility that I'll just start questioning what I was doing. We shot him with Rokinon primes, my Roki primes, Primes. Come on, primes. Yeah, that's super sloppy. The 24, the 35, the 85. Those were the all T.15. And I did it on a Canon 51.4. I'm not going to write that out. Look at that. I've already made a sloppy mess of everything. In terms of lighting, we used couple of 1Ks, generators, 650s, 300s, and during the day we use some reflectors and one bounce card. So let's get right to it. And let's start. Wow, what the hell? It's already a line in that one. So we shot this one, oh look, during the day. Huzzah! What a coinky dink. We picked a really good day. We got really lucky with this day. So we had set everything up. We went out to go shoot, and it was overcast for the entire day with a little bit of sunny periods, but the sun kind of went away quickly. The one thing that I wish I would have done was rented a flag kit and had some negative fill off of camera just to add some layer to Jonathan's face here, just to add some depth. So it didn't look like it was a 1-to-1 ratio. I wanted to probably get like a 4-to-1 ratio. Also hint to the fact, of course, that this is sad, dreary, dark. No, nothing good's going on here. And when the sun did come out, we had a circular diffusion reflector just to pull off the sun on his face over here. It is to keep it from having a brutal overexposed hot spot like right there and over here on his face. And let's move on. And this is later in the film, but again, same day. So we have our nice overcast sky that we could shoot into, and it wouldn't be completely blown out. It's still kind of blown out. And over here, we have a bounce card just bringing up some of the levels just to add a little bit of a little something to it. Again, can't really do too much on an overcast day. All you really could do is just add some negative fill, or of course lighting. But when you're standing on a street corner with like no permits and you're just kind of just stealing some shots because it's low key and you just need something quick for a scene, you're probably better off just to keep it running gun. So now let's get into the fun stuff. Let's get into the nice stuff. Let's talk about how we shot this. So off of camera over here, there's a generator, and up here we have a 1K firing down. So there was a staircase behind, leading up to some apartment buildings on top of this building. And so we were able to get up there, and we just ran extension cord all the way down to the generator, but we just fired it down and used the 1K as our main source. And over here, we have a 650 bouncing into the wall and just reflecting some light. Just to add a little bit of layer, a little bit of dimension, so it's not just black over here and just having that light over here, like just a little more realistic sense to it, the situation. If we move along to this shot, then we start to see some differences. So on top of here, so coming up from behind Steve, we still have the key light. We still have that key light coming from across, but now we've put the key on Steve's camera right, so it'd be his left. As we're here, there's nothing here, but all of a sudden, when we bring up this shot, it's there, And then we have that light coming from here, which again is coming from over here earlier, over here. So it makes kind of sense to have it there. But immediately when we move to the next shot, it's completely been swamped. And so why does this happen? Let's talk about this first for a brief moment. So when it comes to when you come to shooting movies and TV, so the wide shot is always going to be obviously your master shot, something you're going to cut back to. So you want to make it look as nice as you can, but when you sell everything in close-ups, and then when you get to the close-ups, you tend to normally bounce lights around without making it too obvious, because you don't want to have your key blasting from over here, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, by the way, now it makes no sense because now it's even hotter over there, on Dan's face. You want to be small subtleties, and some people you might even notice it. You might be like, okay, so the key light was coming from here, and all of a sudden it's gone. There's no light there anymore. But what I tried to do was sell that, this light over here is a little stronger, and because of that, this light's a little stronger. Now we can see Dan's face over here just for this shot between Steve and Dan before they draw their attention back to Frank Castle. And then immediately, again, we changed the lighting setup again. And the only reason I wanted to really call attention to this shot was because this light's not back here before. So if you look over here, there's nothing behind Steve. Even if there was, I think you'd be able to see a little bit right here where I'm keep putting all those orange dots. But right there was nothing, and all of a sudden there's a light here. And what I would have loved to have, again, was at least some negative fill, so I could sit there and flag off this wall so it doesn't draw attention to the wall. In my opinion, looking back on it now, a year later, it draws way too much attention to this. Your eyes gonna just from Dan running, because there's motion in the shot, your eyes completely drawn over here. And it would have been great just to kind of hide that. So you see, yeah, this wall is illuminated to add some layers. So it's not just black like this over here. And then they have the natural LED back there. So that's casting some light. So it separates Dan from the background that way. But yeah, this wall's bugging me here, really bad. And let's move on to one of my favorite shots in the entire 6 scene short that we did. First, let's talk about all the lights in the scene, and then we'll talk blocking. So over here, we have a 300 watt firing over this way, just to add a little bit of edge to him, because if you can't notice, he's really dark, and although there's a street lamp coming from that way, that's not enough to bring him out from the background, and you'd get lost, like we have this car lost, like we have that car lost. And yes, if you pay attention a lot, you will notice it. And you'll be like, oh, look, I can see the definition. But when you're watching something just in passing, you're not going to be like, oh, I stared at this car, and now I know where the car is. You're just going to be like, well, what the fuck's that black blob? Where the fuck does this house start and this house end? It would have been great to even great to have a little light back here, and much like on light over here on this house right over here, just to separate it, to be like, oh, okay, that's where the house is. Maybe something from behind, something firing up on over the top. Subtle things that, just makes the realism, quote unquote, the realism of it just a little more realistic. There was a light here, and there was obviously a light here. So we turned off this one. We just unscrewed the bulb. We left that one on because Frank starts here, really tall and really close to the camera, and he walks across, and then he goes into the house and starts shooting at the baddies. So if we had this light still on, and there's a take with it still there. So if we have him here and he's walking across this way, your eye's going to be drawn from him immediately here, and not to where I want you to look. I want you to look over here. So I want you to see his path before he takes it. And how we do that is by making a strength of light, by shaping light, by drawing attention to it. You could do it, with a camera movement. You could do it with a focus shift. But I want to really sell it through the lighting to say, He's here. He's going to walk across. He's going to kick open the door because we see the light there. And he's going to go shoot up some baddies. Now, why is there light in here? Again, just to separate a bit from the background so that, again, so we had that, if we had that off, you would not be able to see inside the house until he starts firing inside the building. The house. And we just needed a little bit of light just to, you know, again, create those little light layers and to add separation to the image. And how we do the inside? Well, we had a 100-watt bulb inside a pot lamp. And I had my friend Mike on speakerphone, who was inside the house holding onto this light. And when Sebastian kicked open the door, I would tell him, okay, now. And he would just turn the light off and on, corresponding to like how fast we wanted to have the gunfire. And it would just illuminate just a little bit. And I kind of feel like it should have been brighter. Again, hindsight, you look back on it. In the moment, we weren't thinking like that. It was raining. It was cold. It was miserable. We didn't want to be there. This was the last thing we needed to do before the film was done. So none of us really wanted to be there. So we were just like, let's just do this and get the hell out of here as fast as we can. It would have been great to probably just even had you don't need a 300 watt, even have like a 150 watt, maybe a 300 in there would have been cool. And even though I just said you don't need it, but it would have maybe it would have been too bright. Maybe it would have had to diffuse the crap out of it, and it would have caused more problems. We made a decision, and sometimes you have to live with your decisions, like we did. Oh well. Do I like it? I love it. I love the fact that it's a crane shot. It goes slowly up. We get that slowly crane motion. Duh. And you just get to see this really cool thing. You get to hear it. You get to hear the violence, but not see the violence. And last but not least, let's quickly talk about this shot because I think it's silly. Looking back on it, again, a year later, this shot is extremely silly to me because why would Frank be in the open, sleeping like a homeless bum? The homeless bum part was intentional, but not him in the open sleeping. That's just silly. But I think it plays to his character because he's lost his mind entirely. And yeah, I mean, a man who's lost everything, guy's gone crazy. The blue tarp, my folks had it, so I just grabbed it. It does play really well into the whole scenario again of the whole like very cold, very dark universe. We just brought it up as high as we could just to cover his face so that, you know, other people wouldn't be able to really notice who he was. Same day as before, so we have the overcast day. So it's actually, yeah, it's just behind Jonathan here. We have Sebastian just hanging out, and as you can see, the building, it's only as wide as about a car, a little bit wider so a car could get through. And I'm sitting on my 24 millimeter on a slider, and we just slowly slide into him, and that's how we wanted just to end it, was just going to a push into his perspective, his persona. And I mean, I think it looks cool. I think it's kind of cool. Yeah, so thank you, ladies and gentlemen. If you've made it this far, it's been a pleasure. Hopefully you've learned something. I hope you'll come back to our next one. And until then, bye-bye.